This video is sponsored by Skillshare. August 22nd will launch DC Fandome, a 24-hour online convention of sorts celebrating all things DC, and we can expect more official announcements on what the future of DC on film might hold. This should be interesting because behind the scenes, DC is in a state of upheaval, and massive changes are in progress, as evidenced by them firing most of the editorial staff in the publishing wing of DC only last week. And not all directors are equally pleased with the new direction corporate owner AT&T appears to be taking things. According to reports we have heard, Wonder Woman director Patty Jenkins in particular is displeased. And even as she remains attached to Wonder Woman 3, and may be officially announced for it, a conflict between her and the new powers that be may be brewing behind the scenes. In this video, then, we will tell you what they won't tell you at DC Fandome, as we explore the background for the growing disagreement between Patty Jenkins and the new management at Warner Bros. What could escalate matters, and how this may affect the future of Wonder Woman and DC on film. Since you're watching this, you're probably already interested in learning about the behind-the-scenes politics taking place in the entertainment industry, and you may even be interested in making movies, comics, or even YouTube videos such as this one. No matter what creative field you're interested in, and no matter your current skill level, Skillshare has you covered. Skillshare, this video sponsor, brings together an online community of millions of creatives to take the next step on their journey. Skillshare offers thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people on topics including film and video production, creative writing, freelance and entrepreneurship, marketing, productions, freelancing, and so much more. Whether you're an amateur, a working professional, or a curious lifelong learner, Skillshare has classes to fit your skill level and your schedule. Classes are under 60 minutes and combine video lessons and a class project, enabling you to quickly acquire new skills. This is something we can attest to ourselves. We are frequently complimented for the high production quality of our videos. But if you look at our earlier output, this wasn't always the case. Skillshare's courses in film and video production helped us to up our game from where we were, and no matter where you are, they can do the same for you. Skillshare costs less than $10 a month with an annual subscription. But as this video's sponsor, we have a special deal for you. The first 1,000 of our subscribers to click the link in the description will get a 2-month free trial of a premium membership, so you can explore your creativity. So click the link in the description to sign up while we get back to the brewing conflict between Patty Jenkins and Warner Bros. Patty Jenkins' directorial debut Monster garnered significant praise upon its release in 2003, and it also raised the profile of star Charlize Theron. Jenkins herself, however, was criminally overlooked by Hollywood and would not direct another feature until Wonder Woman almost a decade and a half later. Prior to Wonder Woman, she was attached to direct Thor: The Dark World, but nothing came of it. Reportedly, talks broke down over the movie's integration into the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe. This was a major sticking point for Jenkins, who wanted to make mostly a standalone movie where she was free to make the movies she wanted, without having it bogged down by forced integrations into the larger surrounding universe. This, of course, is one point that Marvel would not budge on, so they split ways. By contrast, the Snyderverse integrations then DC on film head honcho Zack Snyder wanted her to include into Wonder Woman were much fewer and much more subtle, meaning an agreement could be reached. This worked out great for all parties, as by the time of its release, Wonder Woman became the most successful movie of the extended DC universe up until that point, both commercially and critically. This gave Jenkins the recognition as a filmmaker she probably should have had all along, and a deal to make her return to direct a sequel soon came together. Patty Jenkins had even greater freedom in the development of Wonder Woman 1984 than she had on the original Wonder Woman, because by this time, the interconnected Snyderverse iteration of the DC Extended Universe was dead and buried. Zack Snyder himself was demoted in the aftermath of Batman vs. Superman and ousted completely during the making of Justice League. His replacements, Jeff Johns and John Berg, were themselves fired in the aftermath of their disastrous Joss Whedon retooling of Justice League, but by then they had already greenlit Aquaman, Shazam, and Wonder Woman 1984, all of which were envisioned as standalone movies with few to no integrations into any larger universe. Aquaman went on to dethrone Wonder Woman as the most successful DC Extended Universe movie, and Shazam was reasonably successful too, thereby reinforcing that the standalone direction was the way forward for DC on film. This was further reinforced by the later smash success of Joker, the first movie greenlit by current DC on film head honcho Walter Hamada. In the immediate aftermath of that, it looked as though Patty Jenkins would not only get the full creative freedom to make the movie she wanted with Wonder Woman 1984, she would get it on the eventual and then seemingly inevitable Wonder Woman 3. Behind the scenes, however, changes were afoot. In June of 2018, AT&T completed their acquisition of Time Warner, an acquisition in which many other assets included Warner Media and all things DC. But while the acquisition had been completed, the process to audit and overhaul their new assets was only beginning. Little more than a year later, AT&T were watching as The Mandalorian made Disney Plus an overnight force to be reckoned with in the streaming market. They wanted a Mandalorian of their own to promote their upcoming streaming platform HBO Max. This was when the loyalists to Zack Snyder made their move. In the aftermath of Justice League, Jeff Johns and John Berg were fired, but there were many others left in the Warner and DC on Film operation that shared responsibility for that movie turning into the atrocity it became. So as we've covered before, they had every reason to bury the Snyder Cut forever and burn everything Snyder established to the ground. This in part is what held up development of Man of Steel 2, and what led Warner to exploring the possibility of recasting and rebooting Superman. Someone who was completely against this was Dani Garcia, the agent of Henry Cavill. Not only is Garcia the agent of Henry Cavill, she is the agent, business partner, and ex-wife of Dwayne Johnson, the future Black Adam. The three of them wanted nothing more than to see Johnson's Black Adam face off against Cavill's Superman, but in an environment where everyone in charge wanted to see the house Snyder built burnt to the ground. That was simply not possible. However, when AT&T started looking for an answer to The Mandalorian, those still within Warner who felt an injustice had been done to Zack Snyder made their move. They pointed out to AT&T that public demand for the Snyder Cut and what it could do for HBO Max. In exploring this, the powers that be at AT&T went down the rabbit hole and fell in love with the vision of Zack Snyder. For all intents and purposes, an alliance formed between AT&T, Snyder, and the trio of Dwayne Johnson, Dani Garcia, and Henry Cavill, who you will note was there when the release of the Snyder Cut was officially announced. What this shift in power means is that the Snyderverse is coming back. For some, that is not good news. From Mikey Sutton, known scooper, entertainment journalist, and publisher of the newly minted Geekosity magazine at geekositymag.com, we previously learned more details about the power struggle behind the scenes, how Ben Affleck might return to Batman, and the full scope of what the return of Michael Keaton could mean. Now, Mikey Sutton has exclusively told Midnight's Edge about the brewing conflict with Wonder Woman director Patty Jenkins. Wonder Woman 1984 is already in the can and won't be affected by this either way, but depending on how things play out, the Patty Jenkins Wonder Woman trilogy might no longer be a sure thing. As we established, Patty Jenkins dropped out of Thor: The Dark World since Marvel demanded MCU integrations she could not abide by, and she only accepted Wonder Woman because she was mostly free to make the movies she wanted. Likewise, she accepted to return to Wonder Woman 2 and 3 with the understanding that she would be free to make the movies she wanted. And indeed, she has the story for Wonder Woman 3 already mapped out. On August 3rd, she told Collider that since Part 3 would probably be her last Wonder Woman movie, she would have to put everything into it. Note that she used the hedge, probably, which is code for that if the price and conditions are right, it just might be possible to sway her to return to a possible Part 4. But according to Sutton's sources, there has to be a Part 3 before there could be a Part 4, and depending how things play out, Part 3 might not even be a sure thing. DC on Film is at a crossroads, and which path is taken will very much so be determined by what kind of response the Snyder Cut gets when it's released on HBO Max. We have previously reported how the Snyderverse might continue on HBO Max, while the current continuity continues on the big screen. But in a pandemic and post-pandemic world, the big screen might not return to what it was. Streaming might be the dominant force, and if the Snyder Cut is the hit AT&T think and are planning for it to be, the return of the Snyderverse could expand beyond HBO Max before you know it. And what we are hearing from Sutton sources is that AT&T are all in on fully integrated DC Extended Universe, in which everything is canon and references as much else as possible MCU style. If things work out as they hope, if the Snyderverse is a hit, they might not want to wait until Wonder Woman 4 to demand integrations. They might demand that the already mapped out Wonder Woman 3 feature references to other DC productions and characters. This is the very thing that caused Patty Jenkins to walk out of Thor: The Dark World, despite not having made another movie in the decade between that and Monster. She might not respond well to similar demands being placed upon Wonder Woman 3. But while this is a brewing issue, it won't become a fully fledged problem, from Jenkins' point of view at any rate, until the Snyder Cut is a hit, and AT&T decides to head down the path of bringing back a fully integrated Snyderverse. Do you think they will, and would you like to see it happen? Let us know your thoughts on that and on Wonder Woman 1984 in the comments. And remember to click the link in the description so you can be among the 1,000 to get a 2-month free trial of a premium membership of Skillshare so you too can explore your creativity.